I'm about to trigger most of my generation, and here's why. I believe most millennials in Australia are just lazy. Or they're just ultra comfortable. Here's why I know this to be true. Because of the sacrifices that I took in the first 5 years to get to the top 1% of investors, to build a multi-million-dollar property portfolio, things that I did, I simply show them to other millennials of like, here's what you can do as well. And people are like, nah, I don't want to do that. So a lot of Australians come to me saying they want a passive income. Wake up, guys. To get passive, you have to be active to begin with. You've got to do the work. And sometimes the work is actually just sacrificing small things, short term. For example, I didn't live in a home that I owned. I delayed marrying my fiance for 10 years. I didn't have any kids young. And I didn't go buying any expensive fancy cars. I also stayed living at my mum's house, which by the way was like a crack den. I stayed living there for an additional 5 years until I bought my 5th property. Meanwhile, I was getting so sick because the house I lived in was really moldy because the landlord would not fix the house. Our cars were getting robbed nearly on a monthly basis. Even till today, I still never use Uber Eats. When I say never, I've probably used Uber Eats on average 3 times a year. And that's usually when we've gone to an event 3 times a year only to get drunk and then we're hungover. I sacrificed a lot of Saturdays by working overtime so that I can increase my borrowing capacity. In fact, when I was working at Optus, there was this rule, a HR level rule, where you could only work an additional 14 hours across the company, an additional 14 hours on top of a normal full-time 40-hour working week. I used to request approvals from directors 3 or 4 levels above for me to go above that 14-hour threshold additional hours. Meanwhile, in my 20s, all my friends were out getting pissed doing drugs. And even the amount of focus that it took for me to convince my fiance to stay living in the dungeon at my mum's house when we had the most beautiful first house that we'd built from scratch down the road. And I said, no, we're not going to live in that beautiful home, in that beautiful estate where our cars aren't getting robbed and where we would be safe. We're going to stay living in this dungeon until we buy more houses. The energy that took from me to be able to convince my partner to say, please trust me to stay on this path. It nearly broke me, but I held on to that vision for both of us because what our values truly were was time freedom and location independence was what we truly desired the most. Now, I did this when I was really broke. It was literally just a call center worker working at Optus. So you can imagine the average wage that I was on. Now, good news is heaps of people have way more equity in their existing homes that they already have, where they don't even have to take a number of those sacrifices. For some people, it might be one small thing just for 12 months. That's it. Not like all 5 or 10 of the things that I've had to do. Now, I'm not disagreeing that times have gotten tougher thanks to inflation over the last 2 to 3 years. Really, it was actually just because they printed $1.1 trillion during COVID in 2020. But we don't live in a third world country, guys. We have it fucking good here. I know a guy who has 5 kids and a wife at home, and he's working 7 days a week. He's got a 9-to-5 job, plus he's got a side business that he's scaling at the same time. And it's all just about collapsing that time. That's it, compounding. Any extra money that you make is expense free. Meaning, if you have a 9-to-5 job right now, and that's catering for all of your living expenses, any extra job that you make, whether you do overtime, get a part-time job, casual job on the side, all of that extra money, 100% of it can be banked because it doesn't have to go towards another expense. It's already been catered for by your 9-to-5 job. Now, the compounding of that will make a huge difference. So if you want to stop fucking around and you want to utilize the equity that you have in your existing home to then use that to build a property portfolio for yourselves to build passive income, then click the link in my bio, book in a free 15-minute chat. Let's actually map out and see how quick we can get you to replacing your 9-to-5 income.